Good morning, it's already a Friday and welcome to your favorite current affairs program, The Dialogue. This morning on our dialogue table, we turn our attention to a developing controversy that goes to the heart of Ghana's gold economy, public accountability and the management of the country's foreign reserves. The Ghana Gold Board has indeed in recent times come under serious scrutiny or renewed pressure, especially from the minority in parliament, over what they describe as significant losses associated with the domestic gold purchase program. Now, the minority leader, particularly Alexander Apenyo-Markin, has since demanded answers over a reported 22 billion Ghana cedis loss, which he links to Gold Board's trading operations and the program implemented with the Bank of Ghana. Now, according to him, the IMF flagged a $214 million loss under the Gold for Reserves, which is more like the gold for oil style program run by the Gold Board and Bank of Ghana. That has already been established. Now let's even look at the summary of their argument, and that will form the basis for our conversation this morning. Let's look at the minorities' argument as they held a press briefing earlier this week. So they spoke about the FX pricing gap. Indeed, they explained that, or per what we have gathered, and it's a summary, they say that Gold Board buys gold from small-scale miners in cities at a premium rate close to the FX Bureau rates. Now, they argue again that the Gold Board now sells Forex to Bank of Ghana at a lower interbank rate. Again, they argue that the difference between those two rates equals to an implicit subsidy, or better still, in a different term, they say loss to the state. Whether or not that has been established, we dig into it pretty surely. Again, they argue that the IMF calculated that gap at about $214 million for the period reviewed. So the minority says even if Gold Board shows profit on its own books, as it has been stated, the country is losing dollars because of how the deal is priced. But let me also illustrate to you what the response from the Gold Board CEO has been. And we also that press briefing earlier this week. So Gold Board's position on whatever the minority has been saying and critics of the Gold Board or the government in general. They spoke directly to the audited profit as stated by the Auditor General. Now, this was what Gold Board said. Gold Board's 2025 audited accounts show 5.44 billion Ghana cedis surplus and 909.7 million Ghana cedis operational surplus, which was published on their website. Again, the CEO explained that there seem to be some different books, that $214 million is not a Gold Board loss. Very emphatic statement that he mentioned. He further mentioned or stated that it's an accounting or FX valuation entry, likely on Bank of Ghana's books, not Gold Board's P&L. So that's where the whole argument or the conversation or the controversy comes in. Yes, loss has been incurred, but who bears the brunt? That is the question we want answers to. Again, Gold Board argued that, or they react based on this point, that there seemed to be some policy objective. The goal wasn't to make Forex trading profit. The goal was to mop up gold, build reserves, and stabilize the city. By that measure, they say they are working on everything is actually working. On transparency bids, which the minority also questioned whether or not Gold Board is being transparent in their dealings, they argue or they react that the figures are audited by the Auditor General and open to Parliament. And in fact, Sami Gyamfi was emphatic on that particular day and threw a challenge to Parliament that he's very much ready for an engagement, even if at the Public Accounts Committee, or even if he has to come and answer questions on the floor of Parliament. He is very much ready for that. Well, there are pending questions beyond all of that. And I ask, did Gold Board lose money? What exactly does the reported figure represent? Who ultimately bears responsibility for this cost? Was the program designed to make a financial profit, or was it just primarily intended to build Ghana's reserves and strengthen the city? And most importantly, the reason why my guests, devoid political affiliations, we are bringing them on board is this particular interest of the taxpayer. I ask, are the taxpayers getting value for money? As the political exchange intensifies between the minority and Gold Board, we will separate the politics from the numbers and also examine what the available evidence actually tells us. Stay with me as we put Gold Board, the minority's allegations, and that of government defense on the dialogue table this morning. My guests are very much ready. Just after the break, I'll introduce them, and then we look at the economic part of this whole conversation or this whole controversy. This is the dialogue. My name is Ahadzi. Stay with me. There is more after the break.
Now, I repeat, Gold Board cannot hide behind accounting technicalities. Gold Board, I must say, is entitled to make the accounting point that it was purchasing gold on behalf of Bank of Ghana. But agency does not extinguish operational responsibility. An agent entrusted with billions of cedis of public resources remains responsible for the quality of its execution. Gold Board's own description of its mandate confirms that it occupies a central position in Ghana's gold trading structure, with exclusive authority over buying, selling, weighing, grading, assaying, valuing, and exporting gold. Therefore, Gold Board must tell Ghanaians the following. 1. What prices were paid for gold? How were those prices determined? What premiums, if any, were paid to secure the supply? How were international off-takers selected? At what discounts were their gold sold? How much was earned by Gold Board in service and asset charges from transactions financed by Bank of Ghana? What commercial risk did Gold Board itself bear? What transactional risk were passed automatically to Bank of Ghana? What internal risk controls existed to protect the financier, the Bank of Ghana? What corrective measures were taken as losses accumulated? And most importantly, if Gold Board controlled critical part of the trading process, but Bank of Ghana absorbed losses, where precisely did commercial accountability reside? These questions aforementioned go to the heart of the very matter we have raised. So, this model where entity earns fees and another absorbs losses requires scrutiny. In fact, it stinks. It stinks. The structure deserves particular attention because it creates what economists and governance professionals will recognize as a potential moral hazard problem. If an institution earns transaction-based income for purchasing, assaying, and aggregating gold, while the financier bears the underlying trading losses, then
which can no longer be allowed to go unanswered, is to repeat the same tired falsehoods as often as possible and on many platforms as he can, in the hope that repetition will somehow transform fiction into facts and mislead unsuspecting members of the public. The Gold Board therefore deems it necessary that the record be set straight once and for all, to prevent him and others like him from continuing to distort the remarkable performance and transformational impact of the Ghana Gold Board. First, ladies and gentlemen, Afenyo Markin and his followers alleged on several occasions on the floor of Parliament and in the media that the Gold Board made losses in its gold trade operations in the year 2025. This claim is a barefaced lie, which has been debunked time without number by the Gold Board. The audited annual reports and financial statements of the Gold Board for the year ended December 31st, 2025, prepared and published by the Auditor General of Ghana, discloses an operational surplus of 907 million Ghana cedis and an overall surplus of profit of 5.4 billion Ghana cedis. This is an incontrovertible fact. And today, to settle this matter once and for all, I brought to this auditorium a copy of the annual report and financial statements of the Gold Board, prepared and published by the Auditor General, not Sami Jemfi and the Gold Board. We don't audit ourselves. Now, if you check page 12 of this report, you will see that the Gold Board on its own, from its own operations, generated total revenue of close to 1 billion Ghana cedis and kept expenditure just around 109 million Ghana cedis. And so that is what we mean by operational profit or surplus of 907 million. It means that if you took all the revenue we generated as an organization and you deducted our expenditure from it, we had 907 million left. Now, because in the 2025 budget statement, government budgeted a revolving seed capital as its equity for the newly established Gold Board of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis, which monies hit our accounts on or about 30th of December 2025. Those funds had to be added to the revenue of the Gold Board because they were not encumbered, they were not depleted, they were not dissipated. And that is why the overall surplus is 5.4 billion. And this reporting was done by the Auditor General under what is known as IPSAS guidelines. And the chartered accountants and auditors understands this very well. So we brought 50 copies and we are going to distribute to you the audited financials of the Gold Board for 2025 as prepared and published by the Auditor General of Ghana, which puts to rest the false claim that the Gold Board has been making losses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, unsurprisingly, Afenyo Makin and his followers have consciously chosen to disregard the Auditor General's confirmation that Gold Board did not record an operational loss. They now claim that the Auditor General did not have access to the full picture concerning the operations of the Gold Board. This position, ladies and gentlemen, betrays either a crass lack of understanding of how...
Well, very well clarified points by the Gold Board CEO. But again, the minority responded. We'll bring that back later. But I intimated that we want to move away from the colorization of this whole conversation or controversy, from the colors, yes, the NDC, NPP, or the political colors that we see this whole issue coming up with. Let's delve deeper into the numbers. What exactly are the figures saying? When we talk about accounting loss, what does that really mean? Has there been a loss declared? Can we take a look at the IMF's report? Who bears this particular, or who pays for this loss as it's being written or stated by the IMF? What next for Gold Board going forward? It's a conversation that we should be having. Dr. Peter Tekpe is an economist. He will be joining us via Zoom for this in-depth conversation. In studio is Richmond Akpa. He is a finance and an economic policy analyst. He is joining us in studio as well. Richmond, good morning.
Very good morning to you, Randy.
How are you doing? How has your week been?
My week has been excellent. Good morning to our cherished viewers, and then good morning to my other panelists.
Very well. Hopefully we get him as well, so he reacts to all the questions that are boggling our minds. But you, the viewer, you're encouraged to join the conversation. If you're watching via any of our social media platforms, feel free to drop your comments under any of the live broadcasts, and then we'll read them out loud and clear. What do you think about this particular topic? What's your message on this? Let's have your say. The WhatsApp number or the text line is also active. 055-269-7939 is the number. And I understand Dr. Tekpe has joined us via phone. Doc, good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello, Doc. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Hope you are fine, and good morning to you, everyone.
I am fine. I hope you are fine too.
By the grace of God, I'm doing very well.
I just illustrated, and I'll start with you before I come to Richmond in studio. I just illustrated a summary of a seemingly controversy between the minority, the Gold Board, and perhaps Bank of Ghana. For you as an economist sitting where you are, How well do you understand this whole issue that has been going on for a while now? Remember the reaction from the minority earlier this week. Well, wasn't the first time that we are seeing questions being asked about the gold board. But for you, where you stand, how do you understand this whole issue?
Once again, good morning to your cherished viewers. I think that the politicians have politicized this issue to the extent that the reality has been totally buried. And so nobody or people seem not to even understand what is going on. Everybody seems to be confused because they are not allowing the experts to put an objective analysis to the whole issue. And the politicians have unfortunately come to muddy the waters. So let me try to explain to you in basic terms for everybody to understand what the situation is. Now, Bank of Ghana and Gold Board are separate institutions with separate mandates. As part of the mandate of Bank of Ghana is to hold what we call build international reserves. International reserves is basically money or liquidity, where they build it such that in case something happened to the economy of Ghana, we can rely on it. In case we want to do international trade and they want FX to trade, the central bank can come into support. So central bank build reserves in order to help them to either pay international debt, to either help banks with foreign currency, like we see banks saying that the Bank of Ghana is putting in or injecting foreign currency to the banks. These reserves helps in doing that. And so they keep the reserves in certain instruments. One of them is holding of gold, buying gold. Another one is physical cash that they keep in foreign currency. Then other one is foreign instrument or securities like bonds. And so this is how Bank of Ghana build reserves, so that anytime there's a situation and they need to support the economy, they can easily either sell those assets that can easily be sold into cash or the cash itself. So gold is one of the instruments that can easily be sold, and because of that, they added it to the reserve. So this is the composition. This is the work that one of the mandate of the central bank. And so over the years, Bank of Ghana has been holding these reserves either in gold, in cash, or in bonds together. This has been happening for the Bank of Ghana since 1960. This is not the first time. So they buy gold and hold it as part of their reserves. But you know, whilst the population grows and the fiscal demand increases and the economic dynamic changes, there are reviews to this. And so in 2021, the government of the previous NPP government reviewed the policy and they brought what we call domestic gold purchase program, so that they will increase their reserves in gold, because they realize that gold is a very good commodity, that when they hold it, prices goes up, so they can sell it and get funds to support their reserves. And so they took that decision and they increased it. And so by the end of 2024, they increased it to about 19 tons. Now, in 2022, you realize that there was a difficulty in the economy where the FX, the cedi was depreciating at a very fast rate. And the government realized that that is depleting their reserves, international reserves. So what they did was that let us use gold to buy oil. So the gold for oil program came in 2022. So these are policy decisions by the central bank that let's use gold for oil. So at that time, it was needed, very important that they have to do that. And that indeed, that came to help, because oil is the biggest consumption of FX, about 500 million almost monthly. And so if you are going to use gold to exchange it, that is very good. It's a very good policy. Despite the challenges that comes with it, it helps. Now, later on, when this government came, decided that, okay, let's stop that program and rather look at how we can increase the reserves in gold. And so what happens is that if Bank of Ghana, all this while, Bank of Ghana has been buying their gold from Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC. Now, that business of central bank buying gold from PMMC is a decision of the central bank. And so PMMC is an aggregator. Anybody can go and buy gold from them. And central bank to say, I want to keep my reserves in gold. So depending on how much volume you want to keep, you go to them and buy. When you buy, whatever happens, that is a business, that is for you. It's like you going to buy something from somebody to sell. When you buy from the person, how you sell it is your own matter. Now, PMMC has been transitioned to gold board. So instead of PMC, now central bank will have to buy from gold board. They decided that they will increase the volume. So as at the end of 2025 or almost 2025 ending, they've increased it to about 38 tons, almost double. They decided to hold more reserves in gold. Now, when they bought the gold, they bought it, definitely you buy in local currency, you have to go and sell in cedis. So we have what we call FX or translation impact. You are holding something in dollars. That's something that is valued in dollars. Depending on how the exchange rate moves, you either gain or lose. So if you are having an item that is worth $1 million as at the end of 2024, and the exchange rate is 15 cedis to the dollar, your cedi equivalent will be 15 million cedis. At the end of 2025, when the cedi appreciated so fast, anybody who is holding any asset or instrument in foreign currency or cash in foreign currency, your cedi equivalent will reduce. So if you are having $1 million in 2024, the equivalent will be 15 million. The same $1 million in 2025 when the rate went to about 10, you are going to get about 10 million cedis, which is a whooping 5 million cedi difference. That is huge loss. This is what we call FX loss. Now, this is what happened with the central bank. The central bank scaled up its gold purchase from the gold board, and then because of the FX situation, it has affected them. This is decision of the central bank. It has nothing to do with gold board. That is why when the gold board audit account was audited, they made profit. And that is what we should be looking at. There's nowhere that stated that gold board made loss. Now, what the minority is saying is that because central bank bought the gold from gold board and they made those losses because of the FX, gold board should be blamed. This is not objective analysis of the end. I think that it's not fair to blame gold board. It's just like you going to import items to come and sell in Ghana. You went and bought the items and you came. You decided to sell it at a certain rate, or because of certain dynamics, prices have changed or prices are falling. If you make loss, you don't blame the supplier. The same way, if you make profit, you don't go and tell the supplier that I've made windfall profit, so I'm bringing you the excess. No, it's business you are in. So it has helped us as economy in the past and now. So we should look at it as separate institutions. And I keep saying that, for instance, it's just like the issue of, the media organizations. You have decided to set up your media house. You have been given license by the National Media Commission. If you go and do business, if you make loss, you don't go to the National Media Commission and tell them that the license they gave you, you traded with the business and you made the loss. So they are the cause of it. It is unfortunate to do that analysis. And that's why I want to take away the politics and give an objective analysis of what the situation is. So IMF report says that the loss that bank was in the books of Bank of Ghana was as a result of the gold purchase program. This has nothing to do with gold board. But the minority said that because gold board was the seller of the gold, let me put it this way, let's blame it on them. This is the situation. But how can you do that? It's just like telling ECG that you are making losses. Then you are going to VRA that ECG has been making losses. And so those losses of ECG, you come and answer. How do you expect gold board to answer losses on the balance sheet of or on the account of Bank of Ghana? If Bank of Ghana is not being asked, then why do you go and ask gold board? Because the best person to explain the losses is the one who is managing that institution. How can you tell a CEO to answer a question for losses in another institution's on another institution's account? We have several state institutions. Most of them are making losses, but you cannot move from VRA and go to TOR and tell TOR head CEO to come and answer VRA losses. The fact that the two of them connect in business does not mean that you should be blaming the obligation of one institution on the other. So this is the whole scenario. So the losses declared by IMF, Gold Board was mentioned because Gold Board has now become the universal aggregator for gold purchases. In the past, several stakeholders were involved or were given license to trade in gold. Now they are saying that only Gold Board, just like we have Cocoa Board, go and buy gold cocoa on behalf of Cocoa Board. So the aggregators. Gold Board is saying that if you want to trade in gold, come to me. Now, instead of buying it from PMMC, come to me. If you go and buy gold from PMMC, you go and trade in it and you make loss. Why do you go to PMMC and tell them that the gold I bought from you, when I went and traded in it, I made loss? So because of that, come and answer the losses for me. This is the whole scenario.
But Doc, the argument again from the minority is that yes, indeed, we may agree that this is actually an FX loss. But again, could the loss be a bit minimal? Could it have been reduced? Could it have been lesser than the 214 that we are talking about? I'll come back to you on that, but let me come in studio and bring in Richmond as well, so he can also share his thought on this. Richmond, you've heard Dr. Peter Tekpe. I mean, he has spoken passionately about this particular issue, and he has taken away the political colors from it. But the minority insists, and they make the valid point that if indeed on the document presented by Sami Jemfi with regards to the amount or whatever they have made, their argument is that even if Gold Board shows profit on its own books, as we have seen early part of the week, the country is still losing some dollars, quite huge. Somebody needs to account for it. Should we just say FX loss, revaluation, and whatever economic jargon that is being used for it? So we just leave it? Who needs to bear the cross for this?
Randy, I'll begin by appreciating the objectiveness of the esteemed Dr. Tekpe. He has done justice to the issue, the historical facts of why Gold Board came into operations. However, I think that as a country, it is very important we approach the Gold Board, the Bank of Ghana, and the IMF discussions with facts, context, and economic honesty. Why do I say this? The IMF report has made some significant and important observations about the Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program. Even the IMF recognizes that the domestic gold purchase program is for the Bank of Ghana. It also acknowledges that the program played very significant role in building Ghana's reserves, generating foreign exchange for our economy, and supporting the macroeconomic stabilization. At the same time, the same report also identifies that there are some losses and quasi-fiscal risk associated with the program. There's one distinction that we all analysts need to observe and maintain, that the 1.7 billion losses cited by the IMF relates to the Bank of Ghana's gold purchase program. The report says that the program was fully transferred to Gold Board as at the 1st of July 2026, which the Bank of Ghana also agrees that the program has now been discontinued. So all we can take from this program is the lessons that we would have to learn from the program, the successes of the program, and the way forward. The Bank of Ghana is saying that they still want to remain as fiscal agents and monetary agents to the Ghana Gold Board. To answer your question, if you look at law, in principle, a principal and an agent, the law says that whatever economic risks, either accruals, outstandings, or benefits, must be associated with the principal. Take, for example, you own a private school. You are a proprietor of the private school with your own investors, and then you have employed a headmaster to manage the affairs of the school. If the school makes a losses, do you hold the headmaster responsible, or do you hold the proprietor who is the one who owns the school and then have procured investments from you? Definitely you hold the headmaster responsible. This is the relationship between the Bank of Ghana and its agent, the Gold Board. Secondly, the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, IPSAS 9, equally agrees with the accounting format that was recorded by the Bank of Ghana, whereby we saw that the losses sat in the books of the Bank of Ghana, because the Bank of Ghana is the principal of this agreement.
Okay.
I would want to also, for purposes of education, we'd have to distinct the three institutions and the three issues that are being discussed here.
So, namely,
the Bank of Ghana is the institution number one, which is the monetary authority, the holder and manager of our international reserves. Just as the good doctor said, back in 2021, when the domestic gold purchase program was instituted or announced, we didn't have anything like gold board. The reason why it was announced was because we were in a debt crisis. We had a forest crisis, whereby we could see that a whole country that we had, our international reserves continually depleted. The value of the Ghanaian cedi continually depreciated. That was the reason why the domestic gold purchase program was brought in. Exactly. To build our forests, to repair our current account balances, the imports that we had and the exports that we had. It got to a time that the whole of 2023, the Bank of Ghana's forex intervention was about just $1 billion. However, in 2025, about almost 8 billion was done in forex intervention. It means with so much inflows of forex earnings coming into our economy, the pressure on the cedi would what? Will relax. And that was why we saw about 41% in nominal percentage in appreciation to our Ghanaian cedi. The second entity is the Ghana Gold Board. The Ghana Gold Board is a government entity responsible for the domestic gold purchase program. Just as the good prof said, they serve as an intermediary between the aggregators, the traders, by purchasing gold from them, assaying those same goods, and giving the revenue to who? The Bank of Ghana. The third institution is the IMF. The IMF has become an institution assessing our macroeconomic and financial implications and looking critically at the domestic gold purchase program. That is the reason why they have released about 182 pages document telling Ghanaians what has gone through. Another document that they have released is the lessons from the domestic gold purchase program. What lessons as a country are we learning from it?
But everyone, and that's why I have a bit of difficulty. Why must it take the IMF to now tell us these things?
The reason why
we failed to see the books ourselves.
No.
Talk less of the Auditor General's report anyway. But with the IMF, why must it be the IMF telling us that this is what they have seen as far as discrepancies are concerned?
History must be one of the key things that we look at. We look at the historical costs, the accounting costs, and the transaction costs coupled with the economic costs. The reason why the IMF is very relevant in this discussion was because when we had the debt crisis, the people we ran to was the IMF. We went for an extended credit facility for a 3 billion bailout. The gold purchase program was one of the brain ideas that ensured that there were strategies in place to put down pressure on the Ghanaian cedi. The reason why the IMF is another key institution is because as at now that we are sitting here, there's a policy coordination instrument agreement between the government of Ghana and the IMF. So they are key partners when it comes to our macroeconomic stabilization and stability programs. Now, when it comes to the recorded observations of the IMF in the domestic gold purchase program, they are saying that what? The reason why it was very important as at when the program was instituted was because Ghana's current account balance was unfavorable to the economy. Inflation was so bad that we had inflation about 50% increase. The value of the cedi depreciated to a point whereby when you go to the forex bureaus, the dollar to a cedi was selling around 17 Ghana cedis. The Bank of Ghana reference rate was about 14 Ghana cedis. How do the monetary policy rate was as high as 28%. I was having a discussion yesterday, and the main reason of the discussion was if policy rate was as high as 28%, how do businesses operate? How do commercial banks give loans to businesses to operate? I hope you're following. So the policy coordination instrument agreement that the government of Ghana and the IMF have come into is going to ensure that the macroeconomic stability indicators are sustainable. Now, the solutions that the Ghana Gold Board, which is the second entity I mentioned, that must be commended and protected, because see, in the year 2023, The difference between the exports reported by the government of Ghana and the United Arab Emirates in terms of gold import and export, the disparities, the difference was about $4 billion US dollars. Ghana lost about $4 billion US dollars in a year.
This was in 2023?
2023.
Okay.
Just with the import and export disparities of gold through gold smuggling. That will not happen in 2026 because of the Ghana Gold Board. So the Ghana Gold Board is combating smuggling and facilitating the Bank of Ghana's artisanal and small-scale gold mining programs and gold purchases. The government of Ghana also in 2025, to combat this same gold smuggling, eliminated all the withholding taxes of 1.5% on unprocessed precious minerals. So you could see that there is a problem. The problem is gold smuggling. There's another record that says that between 2023 to 2025, the annual gold forex earning inflows into our country increased from about 1.7 billion in 2023 to 12.7 billion.
And that's significant.
In 2025. That's very significant. So you could see that the domestic gold purchase program was designed as a policy to curb gold smuggling. If there is a problem that you have to solve and you are solving the problem, definitely there are going to be economic costs, there are going to be opportunity costs, there are going to be transaction costs. Secondly, the Ghana Gold Board that was created in 2025, they had 3 key missions.
Okay.
And then they have achieved these missions. The first was they had to regulate the gold sector. You could remember that we had a scandal on Al Jazeera, the gold mafia, whereby one person boldly says that, oh, he alone smuggles about $40 million of gold annually. All those inflows were leaving our shores unaccounted for. We're not getting the forex to support our city. So you could see that the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board not only combated the smuggling, but also ensured that they were regulating the gold sector. They were promoting responsible sourcing of gold. We have an issue of economic terrorism, whereby we are depleting the value of our farmlands. There are lands in Ghana now that, as of today, you cannot farm on them. Ghana is a known major exporter of cocoa. Cocoa farms are being destroyed for mining. We are destroying our today and our tomorrow for minerals that we don't even enjoy the benefits from. The establishment of the Ghana Gold Board is ensuring that gold mining in this country is responsible. Whatever gold that we get, we trace them, the traceability of the golds. And thirdly, the Ghana Gold Board is generating foreign exchange earnings inflows for the Bank of Ghana's foreign exchange intervention program and their reserve intermediation programs to support the Ghana cedi. And then that is evident because the value of the Ghana cedi as of today is stronger than when it was in 2023 and 2024. And finally, there is this discussion on the monopoly of the Ghana Gold Board being the only entity allowed to buy and sell gold in the country. I would want to say that yes, that decision is a very smart decision as an objective analyst. If we want to benefit fully, which we had seen, the Bank of Ghana's report says that from January 2025 till today, over 15 billion had come into our economy as forex earnings inflows through this same policy design. Yes, the policy design may have some flaws. That is why the report is here for us to look at those flaws
and correct them
and see the way forward.
Let me bring in Dr. Tekwe again. And I'll come back to you on the issues of economically sustainability of this whole thing. Now, because if you look at the arguments that the minority also stated, and in reference to what IMF says, the IMF says that the program's losses were equivalent to 15.3% of gross gold purchases. So I asked that question, is that economically sustainable? I'll come back to you on that. But let me draw in Dr. Tekwe again. Doc, I asked about the loss. Could we have recorded lesser numbers of figures than what we are seeing? And again, the other part of it is that, was the domestic gold purchase program indeed designed to make a financial profit, or was it primarily launched or intended to build just Ghana's reserves and to strengthen the city?
Okay, thanks very much, and thanks very much to my colleague Richard as well. Let me just briefly put in this. The reason why it's very important to look at this discussion from the objective point of view is that Gold Board is a state institution. Government will go, government will come. And so if the analysis is not being done objectively, when the table turns and another government comes, and today you are criticizing, you come to power and you realize that, oh, so it's the same nature of business. How are you going to discuss it from that perspective? That is why it's very important that we take away politics and then look at it from that perspective, so that we will understand the situation on the ground. So, designing of the Gold Board, because the Gold Board has come in to close the gaps in the gold value chain. You know, one of the things that Gold Board has come to cure is that so much smuggling was taking place and Ghana was losing a lot of money. And so Gold Board has come to solve that problem. And that tells us that if we should get things properly done, we don't need to be increasing taxes or introducing taxes almost every year. When we close the gaps, just like what is happening at the port now with the Republican AI, just like what the GRA is trying to do to also reduce smuggling through the land borders, just like what GRA is doing to also make sure that people who collect VAT are paying to the government chest. If these gaps are closed, we will not be troubled with introducing taxes almost every year. And so if there's any case study to look at, is the Gold Board. And so yes, you cannot create this institution without looking at the financial gain that will come out of it. However, in as much as from the past, the gold purchase program has been there, it's just the name change and the reviews, there can be no such program without associated cost. The reason why this discussion is coming up now is that the Gold Board has become a very visible institution on which the country is currently anchored. The country's fiscal space is anchored on it now, because what Gold Board is bringing in is such that we will say that the Ghanaian economy is hanging on Gold Board because of the reserves accumulation, to the extent that the reserves even went up to about 15 billion. And so if this is one institution and reformation of the institution has brought so much to the economy, then you can imagine what will happen with others. And so definitely it will come with cost. But what matters is that we should be looking at how to make it better whilst the program is in progress. And so we should be asking ourselves, okay, this is how we started. This is where we are now. How do we reduce the losses? Can we manage it? Then we start looking at that, because at the beginning level, you will have those challenges. And every business, we all know how it is. And so in as much as we will look at it from the perspective of the political lenses, let us also be looking at how we will reduce the losses, so that we don't also throw away the argument by the minority. The argument by the minority is to help the Gold Board to look at, okay, they are raising very important question, maybe the way they are raising it. And so let's see how we will address it, so that going forward, we will be able to check certain things properly, just like how Bank of Ghana is now decoupling itself now, so that Gold Board will take full responsibility. It's part of the lessons that are being learned. The minority talk about fees. So we can look at it, okay, at the beginning stage, these are the fees you are charging. Can we look at reviewing the fees? Just like the way the central bank is also saying that they are also reducing their holding in gold. The same thing. And so definitely it's an institution that has been created to make profit. And that's the same way we are calling other state institutions to make profit, so that they can be able to manage themselves. Gold Board is a classic example. And so yes, if you ask the question that was it created for profit making, of course. How can we reduce the losses? It's about the lessons that we are taking now from the current happenings. That is how we can be able to manage it and be able to consciously address some of the issues that are coming up now. And in doing so, we should do it without emotions. I have seen that the discussions from the minority and the good board is becoming so emotional, such that we are not taking our time to peruse the document very well. Look, IMF will continue to serve as the exchequer on us. It's just like currently, even though we say that we are ending the IMF program, because of the policy, intermediation program, the policy coordination program, it's like the IMF has moved from the living room to the main gate. As soon as he hears something, he comes in to check what is happening. And they will definitely put their ears are on the ground. So for them, they will make sure that they will tell the situation, the story as it is. But when they tell the story as it is, and we are looking at it, we should not be manipulating the story. We should explain and break the story down for people to understand. That is the reason why I am not comfortable the way the discussion is going on, because one of the concerns I have, for instance, was how the minority was describing the work of the Auditor General, that they did not have access to certain information. That is how come the report they issued out was like that. If you do this, you are telling the professionals who are managing those institutions, you are telling them that they don't know what to do. But I don't think that if you give the Auditor General's work to any of them to do, they can do it, because they are not professional in that. So when professionals have done their work and we are reviewing it, let us review the work they did based on the report they have issued. If there are any other information that somebody thinks you are privy to and you don't get it, and you don't and you don't submit it, please go ahead and give that and make that information known, so that it will not be like we are rejecting the report that has been issued by the Auditor General, who has been preparing reports over the years, and the Public Accounts Committee has been reviewing those reports and making various asking questions about it. And so let us look at how we will be able to manage these things for people to appreciate the discussion very well. And that is where I want to plead with the minority leader that the words and the way they are going about it, they should. In fact, let me tell you something. Dr. Baumia in 2016, and I appreciate Dr. Baumia very well for that. He is very good in analyzing data. And you know what he does? He used the facts to analyze the data. So he takes the report from the Statistical Service, the economic indicators, the fact of the report as it is, and he will break it down, explain it, and he'll give you the reasons behind those figures. If we want to do objective analysis, we should go by that style. So I'll tell the minority, they should look at the style of Dr. Baumia, who was giving the lectures during those days about economic matters, and how he broke down the things, giving us the fact, using the same report issued by Ghana Statistical Service to be able to break down the report for us, the data for us. The same way they should take the report of the IMF, break it down, tell us that the IMF says there are 240 million loss. This 240 million, this is the breakdown. And this is where we are saying that Gold Board is responsible. But when you don't do that and you decide to blame another institution, then it becomes, problematic. Otherwise, if Bank of Ghana should be making gains, and then tomorrow Gold Board says that the gains that Bank of Ghana is making is they should take the credit. The same way we are discussing this now, we will come against it, because we say it is not Gold Board work. But let me tell you something. If there's nothing at all, we should appreciate our own. The transformation Gold Board has brought, the solution Gold Board has brought to this economy, whereby many people who have been smuggling gold, and this money goes to them for free. Nobody knows about it. They get it for free. Now those loopholes have been closed. And if the country is benefiting from it, if you are spending 20 million, right, to receive 100 million, is it not good? Sometimes I don't understand, but because of political gains, we seem to be too partisan. And as a result, we don't want to educate the people. But you see, the people are becoming more discerning now. Because the argument that is being made today, tomorrow when the table turns, when the same thing is happening, the politician will find a way and for telling you that it is good in his time. But when the same thing is happening outside his time, he say it is bad. When we do that, people will see politicians to be people with certain thinking and certain thought. And that is why we should be addressing. And so when politicians are talking who are leaders, I plead that they should look at it from that perspective. And also to Sami Jemfi, I think that Sami Jemfi is one of the, finest gentlemen the NDC has gotten. Very brilliant, very intelligent, and he knows what he says. He understands very well. In fact, looking at where he's coming from, somebody with no experience in gold trading and has been asked to manage institutions like Gold Board and has been able to turn around within a short possible time and is able to explain things to us. I think we have to commend the gentleman. But I want to plead with him that whenever he gets the opportunity to speak to the media, he should be addressing the media as addressing Ghanaians, not addressing the minority. Because when you want to address the minority, that should be a different platform. When he is addressing Ghanaians on the accountability series, for instance, you are accounting to the people of Ghana. Address the issues and reduce the words that are derogatory so that people will be able to appreciate what you are communicating. When that happens, in fact, you will be hailed more. Everybody will see you as doing a professional work. You notice that when the Bank of Ghana governor goes to meet the public, either the public account, either the parliament or anywhere he's speaking, look at how he goes about it. He does his professional work and that's all. He leaves the rest. That is how I want Sami Jemfi to operate now. That
I'm grateful. Doc, I'll come back to you. There is a concern, and that's a personal concern and a fear. How volatile the economy has been in the past. I mean, we can never tell whether or not we may be going back to that era. But what happens if we start seeing fluctuations in the FX or currency precisely? What will happen with Gold Board and the program so far? I'll come back to you on that and the way forward or recommendations that you have so that we can wrap up this morning. But I mean, Richmond, you've listened to Doc as well. But first of all, I asked the question on the 15.3% gross gold purchases as IMF has described the program to be. And also I asked, is that even economically sustainable?
Okay. So I think we've all spoken about the benefits that the Gold Board has brought. Now let's look at the downside. When you look at the IMF record, in the year 2024, under the same domestic gold purchase program, which is a comprehensive program for all Bank of Ghana's accelerated gold-related issues, there was a loss of 400 million, which was 0.5% of GDP. That was in 2024. Now the record also says that in 2025, about 1% of our GDP relating to the Gold for Reserves program was also lost.
2025?
Yes,
okay.
1.7 billion. Yeah. And I think this is where we have to equally acknowledge the minority for ensuring that they check government agencies and put them in check when they go wrong. However, it is not an excuse from the manner that they had done it, because you cannot pin a loss on a government agency when the law and accounting principles disagree with you. Okay. Now, the losses of the gold trade from the Gold for Reserve policy came by the cost of service and assay fees paid by the Bank of Ghana to the Ghana Gold Board. The assay fees for the purpose of education are fees related to the cost of ensuring the purity or checking the purity
of the gold.
If you mine gold, you need to check the purity. So definitely there are going to be costs associated with that. It is not free. So this is part of the cost that had led to this 1.7 billion loss. That is saying is 1.5% of our GDP. Second is also the discount on the gold sold to the off-takers, the exporters, those who are taking the gold from our shores to another country. There were costs associated to it. So this is also part of that cost. Then thirdly, the exchange rate losses. this is something that shouldn't have been part of the policy in the first place, because it begs no intelligence why we should buy gold that we are mining as a country at a forex bureau rate. You could remember that there was an argument whereby Ghanaians were saying that the dollar was not at 17, the dollar was not at 17. But the Bank of Ghana and the government of Ghana were buying gold as high as 17 cedis, and it is factual on their data. This is the forex exchange rate of the bureaus, in local bureaus, that were buying that. And then the reason why this is accounting to about 50% of the loss is that as we were buying the gold at a forex bureau exchange rate, we're using the Bank of Ghana's reference rate for the accounting works. So you buy at 17, then when it comes to your accounting, you are recording about 14. That difference alone was contributing to this 1.7 billion loss. So the money was not missing, but the accounting principle applied.
Is that why it's described as the accounting loss?
Yes, yes, it's an accounting loss because it is a policy, and the reason given by the Bank of Ghana for this loss is they were trying to keep smuggling. They needed to buy the gold from artisanal and small-scale miners, and they had the choice to give the gold to Indians, to give the gold to Nigerians, to the Arab Emirates, and what have you. And that is why we are saying that yes, it is fair. The loss had been accepted, has been accounted for. How do we interpret and attribute the loss? Who do we attribute the loss to, and how do we interpret it? Because the loss is a reflection of the valuation effects of our currency. Our currency was on a downside, losing value. We needed to buy those goods to shore the currency up, build reserves, and supply our current account balance for those who import and export our activities. Now, the way forward, the Bank of Ghana is saying that the domestic gold purchase program, which was designed as a forex and debt crisis instrument, is being discontinued. So it means that they have also accepted that yes, the domestic gold, it had achieved its purpose at a cost. Definitely, you cannot take the transaction cost away from any activity that you do. Now, the Bank of Ghana says that they are transferring whatever it is, whether it is going to be a discontinued program or a new program, that's the Ghana Accelerated National Reserve Accumulation Program, probably as a GANRAP. It's a new program with the intention to build our reserves to about 15 months import cover by 2028. Now, another report also says that the IMF, who is now our policy coordination instrument supervisor, is suggesting that, look, 15 months is too much. Having a reserve as expensive as that also need maintenance, because we are either keeping the reserve in gold, in the US dollar, or other valuable assets that we want to keep internationally. If we are keeping 15 months, the cost to maintaining that is also going to be another loss for the future. So we need to keep close attention to that. The IMF is suggesting that Ghana should keep about 6 months import cover, which is relatively good. We can monitor, and then the cost in maintaining that can't be okay on our GDP.
6 months.
Yes, 6 months. Because when you go for about 15 months, it's going to be about 3% of our GDP. We're here crying about 1.5% of our GDP. So this should be another conversation that we should be critically looking at. If we have 1.5% loss, and you could see the uproar, then by 2028,
which is likely to grow to 3 points.
Exactly, it might grow to 3 points of our GDP just to maintain our international reserves when our import cover goes to about 15 months. However, those who are fiscal managers of our economy are saying that with lessons from the debt crisis in 2021, with how inflation rose, how monetary policy rates rose, our trade account balances depleted, our debt to GDP, our public debt to GDP also increased. 15 months should be enough shock absorber for the economy. I much agree with what Doc said. If the Ghana Gold Board is taking its activities very prudently, analytically, and objectively, what we are going to see that most of their operations, which the Bank of Ghana is now transferring gold-related activities to them, if managed very well, the value of the cedi as we have it now is going to show up. We saw just by the 11 1.7 billion forex earnings inflows that raked in 2025 gave our CD an appreciation in nominal terms about 41%. So imagine if we have the same forex exchange inflows in 2026, the CD would definitely appreciate. So those who say that the Bank of Ghana is manufacturing but
Richmond, my fear, and I'll pose this same question to Dr. Tekpe. My fear is that history tells us that our economy, risk volatility.
Yes.
We've seen how bad it was some 3-4 years ago. And I'm worried about the fluctuations that possibly might come later. What happens if indeed we start seeing the dollar run very fast away from the CD? And just opposing that to what the gold board is doing, are we not going to come back to this same issue of trying to find where and who has incurred the loss?
So let me, for purpose of education, when we say our GDP, our domestic gross product, it is the monetary value for the services and products and investments we have in our economy. Currently, our GDP is valued about $100 billion, around 1 trillion Ghana cedis. It simply means that when you come into our economy as of today, the macroeconomic indicators suggest that there is sustainability and stability. Number two, there is a level of economy that you have that could predict what is going to happen in the next 2 weeks, next 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months. And that answers your question. Every economist and policy analyst are looking at the macroeconomic indicators to suggest how our economy is going to be. Before the 2021 forex and debt crisis, if you would bear with me, the fiscal indiscipline that we saw in this country pre and post COVID-19 was the main cost of those volatilities. The external shocks, we had Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and other neighboring countries. Why didn't their economy collapse like Ghana? When we were recording about 54% of inflation, their inflations were relatively stable. The fiscal indiscipline that went on, whereby we were borrowing without servicing those debts. If you could remember, there was a domestic debt exchange program also. We lost access to the international capital market. We lost access to international funding and external fundings. We couldn't bring in the same forex to shore up our currency. That was why the value depleted and declined and depreciated. But as at now, there is a solution. The way forward is the institution of the Ghana Gold Board. The Ghana Gold Board already, as of today, by the end of June 2026, about 17 billion in forex earning inflows. And I mentioned in my earlier submission that we had about 8 billion of that going directly into our commercial banks. So you could see that when in 2023 we had only about 1 billion. You could see the pressure that so much CD was chasing just 1 billion in formal exchange of the dollar. But as at last year, we were chasing about 8 billion. So you could say that the CD had room to breathe. So if you use the same macroeconomic indicators to gauge and predict what will happen to 3 to 4, 6 months, you would observe that yes. And then as of today, our import cover in terms of international reserves are about 4 months, 4.5 months. So it means that our external shock absorbers are being built. And while they are being built, they are being sustained also. That is why we are transitioning from the domestic gold purchase program as a country to the GANRAP. Now, you could see that the Gold Board is proposing with the IMF and the Bank of Ghana ways to ensure that this 1.7 billion loss that we are discussing today does not repeat itself. I earlier mentioned that one of the main components of the loss are the cost on service and assay fees paid to the Ghana Gold Board. The operational costs are related to all these service and assay fees were looked at. I think the minority equally has to be commended because they raised this fare somewhere last year. That yes, the cost being paid is very high. And then the Bank of Ghana, the governor, had a meeting, a board meeting, and then they looked at all that. The IMF report is saying that the operational cost already, as at now, had fallen to about 11.4% in Q1 of 2026 from 14.5% in 2025. So you could see that there are measures in place to reduce this cost as we speak.
Okay.
Now, the main goal is to reduce the operational cost about 5% of gold purchases. So if you are transacting the gold operated businesses or activities, earlier the cost associated to it when it comes to operations was about 15%, 14.5%. But the goal is to reduce it from 14.5% to 5%.
Is that feasible?
And as of today, they are at 11.4%. It is very feasible.
No, 11, and I mean, the difference between 11 and 5 is still huge anyway.
But the difference between 14.5 to 11.4 is also huge.
And that's what I'm asking, is it feasible?
It's very feasible.
Okay.
This shows a clear commitment that they are ready to bring down the costs when it comes to operational costs in gold purchases.
Let me find out from Dr. Peter as well, if indeed he agrees with you on that score. Dr. Tekpe, you've listened to Richmond here. Is that even is that feasible? I'm talking about the 5% target that we are talking about, Doc.
Of course, if you are into business, you must set stretch target for yourself. And it is not different from what we do in our daily operations. I mean, this is, basic to every business, that you must always have a target. And at the end of the day, you must always make effort to stretch the target and improve on it. So it's feasible. And feasible because when you are negotiating terms of agreement or contract, depending on the capacity you have, you're able to negotiate a certain level. So, if you look at it from that perspective, at the beginning, when Good Board doesn't have any capital to start with, if you are going for funding from someone, definitely the cost will be high. But as time goes on, when you are able to mobilize your own money, then some of these costs will be able to reduce. And so, yes, the possibility of bringing it down is there because, once you are, into trading, definitely with time, you'll be able to address some of these things. So it is very, very possible. And I would say that from the way things are going, it shows that the team is ready to actually listen to see how they can address some of the issues that are coming up. It is not easy in starting a new policy program. And so most of the policy program with government in the past have started, but they've not seen the success as expected. And as a result, the Good Board is doing very well. And I think that the role of the legislature in actually playing the supervisory role on state institutions is helping to address some of these things. That is why the minority is to be commended for that as well. My only difficulty with these things are the way it is politicized such that people don't understand what is going on. But I think that to a larger extent, we are looking at, we are doing well. But there's one thing you mentioned about this FX issue. One of the things that we have to understand is that you may have all the expertise. If your policy are not set properly, the expertise will not be able to operate the way they want to operate. That is why government normally have technocrats, they normally have professionals, they normally talk about a lot of things to do when they are in opposition. But when they get into power and the reality begins to hit them, you wonder if it's the same people, because most of the time their policy announcement will not align with the realities on the grounds. And that is where we see the deviations coming in. And so something like FX currency, CD depreciation or CD appreciation, if we don't address the fundamental problem of import, this demand will continue to be high. If we don't address the fundamental issue of domesticating the economy, where we build local capacity and we dominate the economy with foreign businesses, the demand for FX will continue to be high. That is the reason why revival of the revival of TOR is very important, because it's going to help to address, one of the biggest areas where we consume FX. And so let us look at how we will address these issues fundamentally. When these are done, then the policies will align properly with government interventions. Other than that, the experts will be there, but their hands will be tied. So the more forest comes in, the more we consume forest because the economy is dominated by it. And so less government policy interventions align with the executions. And when that happens, it is going to help to reduce the demand on the FX. And once the demand on FX reduces, definitely the currency is going to be stable. And I think that what we want is stability, not volatility.
Before you go, gun wrap. Indeed, I mean, Richmond mentioned that it's going to help change the narrative, so we don't really go back to the same conversation in the near future. Do you also agree to that?
Yes, I agree to that. But one fear I have is that the concentration on gold should be looked at critically, so that we don't look at it as if the other sectors are ignored. Because now gold board has become, I mean, the baby on the table that everybody wants to touch. And so when we look at the transformation that has come, we should also be looking at other areas so that we can diversify their portfolios very well in terms of the state institutions and what they are bringing. So that you see, one challenge is about the economy of Ghana is that the economy is so volatile to, I mean, what happens in the international economy. And so when we see like what is happening between Iran and America, we see that the impact is always having daily effect on us when the Strait of Hormuz is closed or is being blocked. And so because of that, gold prices can fall any day, any time. And because of this situation, Bank of Ghana has taken the move to the initiative to actually reduce their holdings. As a result, Gold Board should also be looking at its trading narratives or the system it put in place in its activity, so that when the prices promulgate downwards, we will not see a sharp, impact. And when that happens, the economy of Ghana will be highly affected. And that is what I hope that the government will be looking at, that the concentration should not be dominated on Gold Board.
So much for making time for us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me as well.
Weekend. Dr. Peter Tekpe is an economist. As always, you have him on our shows, adding his voice to national discourse. Richmond, before we wrap up, let me read some messages our viewers have sent so far on our socials. Joshua Siedu says, awesome. I think it's a reply to you. Boss Rich, keep up the good work. Collins of Ghana says, keep doing good work for Mother Ghana. Richmond Akpa. Collins again. Okay, so Agnes says that okay, Agnes is using our medium to advertise business. Okay. DJ Opai Demo, I guess that's the name, from Kumasi Swami says, Mr. President, pay Ghanaians farmers their money, but stop threatening them with policy that is hindering their freedom. Greetings to lawyer. Okay. All right. Jason says, so eloquent, boss. Keep it up, Richmond Akpa. Bruce Sampson says, a very good morning to you, my brother and boss, Richmond. The WAP report of Gold Board's loss are completely false and misunderstood. Gold Board remains a resilient, vital pillar of Ghana's economy. It continues to drive transparency, stabilize foreign exchange, and maximize national value from our resources with unyielding integrity and operational strength. Besides, Sami Jimfi has always been open to any probe there is. Okay, Bruce, thanks for your message. Sorry, Louis says, for Richmond Akpa, he's a blessing to our homeland Ghana. Angela Ya Asantua Mwaku says, clearly, Gold Board is a strategic economic stability initiative. However, any losses incurred are important to acknowledge where necessary. From a nationalistic and objective perspective, while these challenges may inform future improvements, I believe we should give Gold Board the benefit of the doubt and allow it the space to operate, evolve, and deliver on its broader economic objectives. All right, Angela, thanks so much for your message. All right, so I mean, we're really out of time, but let's wrap up quickly on this way forward.
So the way forward is we need to learn from this Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program. Now that the Gold Board. The Ghana Gold Board is taking over. The Ghana Gold Board now has the responsibility to demonstrate to Ghanaians that yes, they can buy, they can aggregate, and then they can export its own gold at a much lower cost with proper pricing, transparent accounting. When it comes to their books, it should be readily available for everybody who wants to go through their books, and then responsible sourcing of these goods, of this gold. You see, the issue of galamsey that everybody seems to be ignoring is because of the mining of this gold. So if Gold Board, as the national aggregator and exporter of our gold, is not taking key actions to ensure that these goods are being sourced well, we would have an issue where we will not be able to feed our families, but we'll be very rich. We will have golds that we cannot eat in our houses. Therefore, I think the Ghana Gold Board should pay critical attention to these issues, and also to the IMF. We understand that they are the external macroeconomic supervisors of our economy. However, we have the Ghana Statistical Service, the Ghana Audit Service that are very competent doing their jobs. I think they should also be consulted before some of these reports come out, and their input should be included in their reports, whether accepted or unaccepted, whether they agree or not.
Because I think that's where the whole issue is coming from. Because the minority says if indeed the Auditor General has a credible report, then they should have also captured that,
you see,
that the IMF has captured.
Let me explain this. I just read a comment by a senior. He is saying that if I own a car and I give the car to you to sell and tell you that keep 5% of whatever amount that you sell the car, and you go to sell the car for 50,000 and you keep your 5%. If naturally or originally I intend to sell that car for 70,000, I would have recorded 20,000 loss in my books. However, it will become a gain to you on the 5% that you have received. Another way, the same way we are looking at the transaction cost of the Ghana Gold Board. Accounting, in accounting terms, the 1.7 billion US dollar loss that the Bank of Ghana is recording would reflect in the account of those exporting the goods as a gain. When you go to their ledgers, it's going to be credited to them as it goes on the loss on Bank of Ghana as a debit. It's going to be an income for them also. So this is not in a general loss. Local Ghanaian businesses that are providing assaying service, aggregation services, and export services as off-takers are benefiting. These are costs that is associated with this. But then when you go into their books at local businesses, they are benefiting from it, and they're also paying taxes from it. So we need to be very objective about this. Once it is a loss somewhere, it's going to be a gain somewhere. The money has not vanished into the thin air. However, Gold Board has the responsibility to demonstrate to Ghanaians that yes, they are buying the goods, they are aggregating it, they have the capacity to export the gold as off-takers. Let's accrue all the benefits to the Ghanaian people and create jobs for the young people.
Does Sammy Jemfis, and I mean, of whatever we're saying, maybe politically, does the CEO's response put to an end this whole controversy? He further went ahead to ask that he is available for a further probe. Should that be the case from where you see?
I watch both the minority leader and then the Honorable Sammy Jemfi. I fully support the Honorable Sammy Jemfi and his Gold Board. The reason why I said this is you do not go looking for smoke when there is no fire. So far as there is smoke somewhere, there is fire. Here there is no smoke, and you are shouting, saying there is smoke, there is fire. What's when you go into the room? There is no smoke and there's no fire. So I think his response yesterday on the government accountability series had put all these issues to rest. He has clearly stated that the forest and debt crisis of 2021, 2022, 2023 has ended through the implementation of the Gold Board's domestic purchase program, which is now GANRAP. So yes, they are fully in shock and in place to manage the economy, and I think they are doing that, and he needs to be commended. Thank you very much.
Richmond, thank you. Richmond Akpa is a financial and economic policy analyst. He is joining us this morning in studio for this great conversation. I have a very interesting message, and I think that Richmond and Dr. Peter Tekwe, you have done justice to the topic. Masset Domprey says that I now understand the whole issue with Gold Board and minority. It's good I watched the dialogue. Okay, so that's from Masset. Masset, thank you so much for a message. And Richmond, thank you so much for coming. Hopefully we do this some other time again. But before we go, special greetings to you, Sydney, aka Labatos, the only worker at Wezor who has a Chrysler. The Chrysler was registered in the year 2008. Yes, young boy driving Chrysler, which was registered in 2009 or 2008. But big shout out to you, Sydney, aka Labatos, from the entire team here at WoezorTV. And also a very belated happy birthday to you, my king, His Royal Majesty Unansa Techi the 7th. The chief of Logba Tota. Yesterday you marked your birthday, and it's just right that I use this very opportunity to celebrate you this morning. You are a great man, and we really appreciate how you're turning things around in our community. Happy birthday to you. Can I try that in the Ikwana? Yayi Omawu Jogbenye Pete Tau. Yalo Diao birthday Omawu Ntato Tau. Ida good health the if I plant abu blood tattoo table enji happy birthday to you Nansa Techi the 7th. And here we draw curtains on today's edition of the dialogue. A very big thanks to you for watching, and a very big thanks to the team for helping put this one together. Hopefully next week we reconvene for another great edition of the dialogue. But brace yourself up for all our programs over the weekend. And as I always tell you, it's a weekend. Stay safe, stay out of trouble. Let's meet again next week. It's a wrap for now. My name is Randy Ahadzi.
Between March and May this year, under our model to raise advances from off-takers, we were able to raise close to 839 million United States dollars on our own from off-takers to buy gold. And all that dollars was sold to the Bank of Ghana. 839 million United States dollars that we sourced from our off-takers into our bank accounts at Bank of Ghana, which we offloaded, the FX we offloaded to the Bank of Ghana at the Bank of Ghana reference rate under a forex sale agreement between Bank of Ghana and Gold Board. So that is with off-take advances. Then you have our program to raise money directly from the commercial banks. Because this whole talk about Bank of Ghana financing Gold Board, you need to understand it. It doesn't mean that Bank of Ghana goes and take its own money and give it to Gold Board to buy gold. You see, there is something called intermediation. And intermediation means that there are businesses and individuals in Ghana who need foreign currency dollars to transact business. And economic activity is not able to generate the supply of that dollars in the banking system to meet that demand. So the Bank of Ghana comes up with a beautiful program, intermediation, and says, commercial banks, if your customers need the dollars, take all their cedis and bring it to me, the central bank, as an intermediary. That is why it is called intermediation. As an intermediary, through an auction. And tell me that you want $50 million from your customers. Then Bank B will say, I want $100 million. Bank C will say, I want $10 million. And bring me that cedis from your customers. Then I will take it as a middleman. The Bank of Ghana is like a middleman intermediary. And I'll give it to Gold Board to convert the cedis into gold. Sell the gold for dollars. And when Gold Board sells the dollars to us, we will give the dollars to you. That is the process of intermediation. And that is what people think, that when we say BOG financing Gold Board, is that Gold Board, BOG is giving free money. No, it is a partnership.